Hogstye.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hogsty. It is I, your host Alex. It's Steve with me. No Dave. Dave is out having dinner with his wife. I think he said it's her birthday. Fine.
Supposedly, maybe I think he just wanted to ditch us. Who
Yeah.
knows if where he really is?
Yeah. I mean, look, if you want your, happy marriage thing, I guess go ahead, Dave. That's cool. If he does get home, he can hop on.
I mean,
But
I just don't respect prioritizing family over a hobby. I mean,
no, we all know that about you.
prioritizing family over a fake job. I don't understand
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Get your
Uh,
priorities together, Dave.
Now, I would say always prioritize your family over your real job. That's important. But fake job, no. Fake job comes first.
Absolutely. I mean, what is more important here?
Right.
Your
Podcast,
spouse or the Hogstye podcast?
family, fake job, and you can throw religion somewhere if you're religious. I don't care. That to me would not be in the top 10.
Listen,
But
we run this like I'm a tyrant when it comes to this
yes,
stuff.
Steve does actually carry a whip at all times. It's
I
very
do.
weird.
I carry whip for other reasons, though.
Yeah, yeah. He carries it into work. It's a whole thing.
It is that I'm known as the whip guy. I
Yeah.
carry it. It's on my belt.
Right. Like
And so
Bill Murray in that old SNL bit.
whenever I feel threatened, I just whip it out, and if somebody's not listening, the
Phrasing.
paralegals, the whip, yeah.
Are we not doing phrasing there?
I don't whip anybody. Make it clear. I
Right.
use it as a scare
Just in
tactic.
the air. The crack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Indiana Jones. Just make the noise.
Yeah, it scares people. Um so by the way, we are getting to the holiday season. It's the last night of Hanukkah for the people listening the day we launch this. So happy Hanukkah to all
You
my
said the
fellow.
last. It's the first day, right? Is it
No,
the
last
last day
night.
already?
Tomorrow's the
Oh,
last
okay.
night. For us it's tomorrow, for them it's today, probably.
Because I said Happy Hanukkah on the It's Just Business, and I thought it had just started. How many days is Hanukkah?
It's 8 nights.
Okay,
Uh
so I was wrong. I think I had missed the
no,
first day.
no,
I thought it was.
if you said it on the last show, you were correct.
Yeah, but that was only 5 days ago.
Yes, and we're hitting day 8.
Well, no,
8
but
minus 5.
okay.
So you said it on day 3.
Yeah. So well, okay.
Yeah.
That's what
You're
I
fine.
thought you were saying. It started on Sunday. So
No,
no.
no, it ends. It ends.
Okay. Irrespective, regardless, Happy Hanukkah to those who observe
Yes.
Hanukkah for sure.
Yeah. I will say my wife did something fun. She gave me one sock for the first night and gave me the second sock on the second night.
That's the world's worst gift ever. Is
Well,
it not
Hanukkah
a
is always
sock?
about terrible gifts.
Oh, okay. Is it? Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
yeah. We don't
She gave
get
you
we
a
don't get
sock?
like fun things. We get clothes.
Because my impression of Jewish holidays, it's more a lot of them are like self-flagellation type of right events. It seems like.
There's a little bit of that. Hey, we escaped slavery. Eat dry bread and salt water.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
our
one would escaping slavery, and many people would be cause for like a celebration.
right. No, no. We celebrate by eating dry bread and salt water and parsley, and yeah, it's awful.
See, leave the salt water off, and that's kind of my daily diet, though. I'm kind of used to it at this point.
It's true. There's a hard-boiled egg. I don't know if you do eggs anymore with your diet.
No, no, no. Eggs are good. Eggs are a great source of protein, so I
They
just have
are
to leave the salt and stuff off it.
right,
And
right,
once I learned about cholesterol, I don't really care about the cholesterol in eggs too much because it doesn't really affect your blood cholesterol.
right. And I assume your cholesterol's actually in decent shape.
Oh,
Anyway.
it's normal. Yeah, but I do egg whites, but it's my laziness, really,
Hmm.
because egg whites are I can pour it out of a box.
Right, right. It's in a carton. I get
It's
it.
in a carton, yeah, and so I can just pour it, and it's much easier than having to crack eggs. Because I eat,
The
I
extra step of having to open the trash can and throw the eggshell out
well,
just
also it's
kills.
time. I'm doing this at 5:30 in the morning, and
Oh, I know. I
I
know.
don't need all that, and I eat a ridiculous amount of eggs. Actually, I eat like
Oh, okay.
6 or 7 a day.
Wow, that's a
All that,
lot.
yeah. Well, I
That's
have to. If I don't eat, I will. I am a person now with my diet, this ultra healthy diet. If I don't eat a ton, I will lose weight.
mm,
It's almost impossible for me to gain
but
weight.
and it's almost all protein based at this point.
Well, no, I get a balanced diet, and I'm not gonna. It's not the food hour here, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not. It's not an all protein diet. No, it's a balanced
Oh, okay.
meal,
I thought you
complete
went
with
very protein, like just lean
veg.
protein heavy.
Well, it is lean protein, but I eat tons of vegetables and fruit and all
Oh,
kinds of stuff.
yeah, yeah. I don't do any of that. I just
I know what you eat. You eat whatever you want.
well, to be
That's
fair,
fine.
I did finally start going to the gym at 40, so that counts for something.
It's everybody has to start sometime.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna have a concert report next week. By the way, I'm very excited about this. I
Oh
mentioned
yeah,
this
where
on
you
It's
go?
Just Business. This is great. This is like an '80s love fest. It's Warrant,
Okay.
Winger, Lita Ford, and Steelheart. Now you cannot beat this.
I mean, I'm sure
Total.
people could. Certain people.
No, you
For
can't.
you, that's fantastic. That's all right up your alley.
Well, like Warrant, the lead singer Janie Lane died of a drug overdose like 20 years ago. So and also I was a stage crew for a Warrant concert, so I've seen them. It's really I want to see the other bands more so. And if anybody, I want to put a plug in for Steelheart real quick. For those of you who haven't heard of Steelheart, this guy, the lead singer, he's from somewhere in Scandinavia. I, I don't Norway, Sweden, somewhere.
Okay.
He has got the most unbelievable voice in music. It's unbelievable how good this guy's voice is. You got to listen. Go listen to Steelheart.
So I'll ask this because I'm ignorant of the answer. Does he sing in English?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He does.
Okay. Interesting.
It's yeah, and has a little bit of an accent. It's not a thick accent, but it's English. But his voice, I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. His range is like Whitney Houston level kind of
Oh
range.
wow. Wow.
Not
Cool.
yeah, it's ridiculous. So I'm most excited about seeing him, honestly.
Cool.
I'll
Cool,
have a
man.
big
I mean
report
that.
next time on the Warrant Wingers Lita Ford Steelheart show.
There you go. There you go. Steve is, as everyone knows, a huge music
I
file.
am.
Um, if he wasn't doing a sports podcast, you probably just would do a music podcast.
I've thought about doing that anyway.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought about adding a podcast to the roster, which would be incredibly dumb, but I've thought
Right.
about it.
Right. I don't know who you would. I mean, you got to know some people who would be up there with you in terms of the whole music obsession thing. It's
Yeah, well, granted, but the trick, as you well know, is to find people willing to put as much time as you and I have
oh
put
yeah,
into this.
yeah, yeah. The hardest thing has always been finding people who are willing to stick to the
You and
routine,
I have
Dave.
gone through a roster, entire roster of people. Dave is just the latest one.
Right, right, right. I mean, we're. I made a similar reference earlier, but we are like SNL. We just keep cycling through cast members.
Exactly.
Or maybe
You and
we're
I
more
are,
like the Three Stooges, and you and I are just Mo and Larry, and
or like we're like some combination of Lauren Michaels. We're always there with SNL. Never changing,
well, that's how it goes.
and just have a continuing cast of folks coming through here.
Right, exactly, exactly. Does that make so? Who's our Chris Farley then? It's got to be, I think, Jamal, because Jamal was the star, but he wasn't the first wave.
No, but he wasn't a humor guy though.
That's true.
Like the humor guy was John Worrell, Kelly Worrell.
Sure, John. I mean,
And let's
we've
be
had other
honest, he
humor
also kind of
people.
looked most like Chris
That's
Farley
true.
too.
That is true. Robbie lost too much weight by the time he was with us to
Yeah, when
look.
Robbie is also like a bulky lineman, he wasn't like.
Little known fact: Chris Farley also a huge athlete back in the day.
Chris Farley.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't
He
know
was like
that.
a high school football star and all that kind of stuff.
What happened? My
No, he was
goodness.
just he was a lineman. That's what happened. He was a big guy.
You don't have to put on 100 pounds of fat though.
I,
Look at Jeff Saturday.
oh, I know, I know.
Didn't know that.
But different era, different era. All right, we've vamped a bit here. We should talk about what we got to talk
Went
about, which
well
is
off
this.
the deep end.
Yeah. Well, Dave's not here to keep us in check. That's the problem. So obviously there was no game, so Washington didn't lose this weekend, guys. Congratulations, good job. Except you kind of did in a way because you lost your starting linebacker. Jamin Davis is out now with a shoulder injury and getting surgery. Um, Only in DC could we somehow have one of our big starters go on IR in the bye week.
I
That
mean,
feels very Washington.
he's undeniably the best linebacker on the team.
Right.
I mean, that's being king of the fools to a certain extent. I think. I mean, we've
He's the
said
skinny
some.
kid at Fat Camp. Is that what? Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, perfect. He's the skinny kid at Fat Camp. I like it. I still call him a bust because he was drafted to be a
Absolutely.
middle linebacker. He's not a middle, but he's a serviceable. At a minimum, he's kind of a serviceable will linebacker.
Right. For what they drafted him as, bust. As far as can he have an NFL career? Sure. Like,
Yeah. Do I think they need to sign him to a giant, massive contract? No, I do not.
no. He should be like a $4 to $5 million a year player tops.
Yes, exactly.
That's what he is.
Not this year though. I mean, he's
No,
out
no.
for the rest of the year. What was the injury again? A back? Was it back?
Shoulder injury is what they said that he's getting surgery on.
Yeah. So Washington put him on IR, and they brought up Pryor from. I think is his first name Joshua Pryor. Let me see here. Yeah, Joshua Pryor, who's a defensive lineman. For those of you who don't know who Josh Pryor is, and to be perfectly honest,
so that's a smart move, Steve. When you lose your starting wing linebacker, whatever you want to call him, because he's not a middle linebacker, but they don't say left or right.
I'd call him a will.
Yeah, will. All right.
Yeah.
You lose your starting will linebacker. Don't bring up another linebacker to fill in the gap. Let's bring in another lineman. That's a good call.
Well, I mean, what's the point of linebacker? I mean, clearly Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio, rest in peace, did not know anything about linebacker. So Joshua Pryor is 6'4", 280. So he's definitely not even a fake linebacker masquerading as a defensive end. He is. No. That is not a linebacker. So he is undrafted free agent 2023 out of Bowie State. So some of you out there probably know who he is.
Yeah.
Considering he's at Bowie State.
Yeah. So local-ish kid, I guess.
Local-ish. And this means I have to update the salary cap or the salary cap page again.
Oh, yay.
I had gone like 2 months without updating. I was just being lazy, and I finally updated it all, and then they changed it.
You did update it very recently too, and published it.
Yeah, like last weekend.
We get like a half dozen, a dozen people very excited on Twitter, and like
good.
Yeah, people respond to that still.
Well, you know how much of an if I actually publish all the stuff I have, it would be like ridiculous, you know.
Steve has a deep love of Excel that is unrivaled, except for his love of maybe music and promptness of co-hosts on a podcast.
Promptness of co-hosts is important to me. I got to be honest, because I have a touch of OCD about stuff like that, as Alex knows, and so it's like, see, like Dave. Dave is right now messaging us, going, "I'll be there in 10 minutes."
Yeah, Steve is just so, like, people can't see it obviously, but just seething right now about it.
I don't know if I'm seething. Okay, so anyway, Jamin Davis, good riddance for the rest of the season. No great loss. I mean,
get healthy. We can still.
No, I don't mean good riddance in terms of dying. I mean in terms of on the field. What can it hurt at this point?
I mean, at this point, they're playing for draft position, so lose everybody.
I mean, the players aren't playing in the coaching staff and the players are not playing for draft. The fans are rooting for draft position. Okay.
Fair.
That's a distinct difference.
I thought you were just going to stop at the players aren't playing. So, like.
Well, I mean, we talked about this a little bit last week. It's a combination of things.
Yeah.
The roster isn't put together well.
Nope.
The coaching staff is kind of checked out. And the result of the coaching staff being checked out is that the players are not motivated and playing like they give a crap.
No, and they're being rather verbal about it too, which is fascinating.
I don't really respect John Allen's. I don't know if he's been mouthy this week or not with the bye week. No, I don't really respect him being this week, really. Yeah, I don't really respect him being mouthy about it. I mean, you're supposed to be the leader. You have the big contract on the defensive line. Mm-hmm. Stand up and try to do the right thing. Don't complain like a little baby.
I mean, look, I'm all for if he wants out, trade him. That's where I'm at. Like with any, and that's where I'm at with most players. If they don't want to be here, like you're in a rebuild, just get what you can for them. But yeah, you have a C on your chest. You gotta lead by example a little bit more.
Well, they've elected a bunch of bad players. Trenton Williams had a C on his chest. He whined and cried. Yeah. And he had a reason. I get it, but I mean, he didn't handle it well. And now we have John Allen. So and there's been others.
Yeah. they don't do a good job in football in general. Don't think that teams do a good job picking captains. It's always a quarterback. It's always the high draft picks. No, the in hockey and other sports where you have real captains, it's the hardest worker. It's the guy who really leads the locker room. He might not be a star, but that's who gets those, those
I mean, generally speaking,
accolades.
I think a good quarterback, will be one of the leaders.
Generally speaking, but I'm sorry, not every quarterback deserves it. They just don't. They can't.
Tell you what, I want to go over just real quick. We're going to go over a little bit of a salary cap thing since we have
Sure.
time.
Well, while you're pulling
Go
that
ahead.
up, I
Yeah.
will also just say the two other roster moves made today. The team cut Danny Johnson, who's been with them for a while for a seventh round pick. I think this was his fourth season. I don't have it up. And then they also waived cornerback Caillou Kelly, who I guess was a practice squad guy.
No. The Ravens waived Caillou Kelly, and Washington got a
Oh,
waiver
Washington
claim on
signed
him.
Caillou. Oh, okay.
They cut Danny Johnson in favor of Caillou Blue Kelly. I had
Right.
honestly never heard of him before
Hmm.
today. He's he's the son of Brian Kelly, who played 10 years in the league in the early
Okay.
2000s. Caillou Kelly is 2023 fifth round draft pick by the Ravens, who he's been active for 6 games.
Mm.
And now, okay, so I should have researched him ahead of time because it looks like he's been with the Ravens, the Packers, and San Francisco all in 1 year. So hold on, let's figure this
So quite
out
the
live
journey.
on. We're gonna figure this out live on the air.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Okay, so
yeah.
yeah, okay, so a fifth round pick in 2023, drafted by the Ravens. They cut him before training camp. Signed, all claimed off waivers by Seattle. He
Right.
was waived by Seattle November 11th, and then the Packers claimed him off waivers, and
Hmm.
then he was released yesterday by the Packers, and so now Washington has put a claim in on him and gotten him. So that's Caillou Blue Kelly. This is a backup. They must see potential in him. You know,
Yeah.
this is
You
not
know,
going to make a huge difference.
all that potential that other teams,
That three other teams did not see.
three other teams, two of whom have very good defensive-minded coaches and are actively trying to compete, didn't think he was good.
I mean, look, I mean, Danny Johnson is a vet, and he's had his moments in Washington, but I mean, it's not like that's a great loss in leaving him. So you
No,
might
no,
as well give some kid like this a
he's a good.
shot.
Danny Johnson was a bit of a good story, though. Anytime a seventh round pick does anything, it's a win. So,
Yeah,
uh, you know, and I feel bad for Danny Johnson. I feel like he's just kind of getting shorted from some rando.
I
But
mean that happens in NFL.
I know it does.
Okay,
And
real quick.
he's still getting over $1 million next year because it was guaranteed in his contract. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So Cry Me a River.
right.
Um, okay, so real quick. So I did publish a column on Monday about the 2024 salary cap situation. I'm not going to read all this. You can read it. It's on the website. It was called Let's Look Forward into 2024, which is one of my famously creative titles, column titles. So the gist is they have 33 players under contract next for 2024. Total cap hit of about 161 million. If you throw dead cap rollover into it, that's hard to estimate and stuff, but I gave that about another 9 or 10 just to make it even, call it 170. 170 million. The salary cap estimate right now is supposed to be at least 240 million. The NFL expressly declined to release an estimate.
They
Um,
never do an early estimate,
well,
right?
they do actually sometimes,
Do
but they
they?
didn't this
As
time. It could be more than 240 million. So that leaves 70 million in just pure space. But Washington's also going to have a rollover
Yeah.
from this cap. And right now, Washington has about 15 million in cap space. So that puts the team at about 85 million in available cap space. Now, just to summarize, the players that have the big cap hits: Terry McLaurin, Charles Leno, Logan Thomas, Andrew Wiley, Nick Gates. on offense. Defense is John Allen, Deron Payne, and that's it on defense.
Yeah.
Kendall Fuller's contract expires.
Yeah.
I have to think they're going to cut Logan Thomas.
Yeah, he's like the amount of money you save cutting Logan Thomas is huge. It's most of his salary at this point.
Right.
And Charles Leno also is a pretty good savings, I believe. And though, so I know we're not necessarily doing this for this part, but I don't know if you cut Leno quite yet. Like, he's not great, but I don't know, until you have somebody is going to be your starter. I don't know if you just cut bait.
Well, yeah. See, he's a serviceable C+ kind of
Right.
starter. So if they draft somebody, yeah, it depends on what happens. But he is a pretty big cap savings. He's going to represent about a savings of about $7.5 million next year if he's cut.
Yeah.
He's got his cap hit is $15 million. His dead cap's only 8.25. So that could be a big.
You have so many holes on that offensive line.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Even if you draft one of these top left tackles, you could say, all right, Charles, we're going to try you at right tackle before we do anything.
They could, and that might be smart, which leads us neatly along to Andrew Wiley, who, my words I was kind of proud of. I called him the worst anchor of a tragically untalented offensive line. So that's
poetry. Beautiful.
For this, it is. He's only going to save 1.6 million, but it's addition by subtraction by him. And then Nick Gates needs to go. I mean, it's just unbelievable how stupid they were with Nick Gates.
Right.
So the real anchors, I think, next year, Logan Thomas, Andrew Wiley, Nick Gates. Those are the anchors. Leno, I kind of agree with you. McLaurin has a big cap hit, but they could trade him. They're obviously not going to cut him. They could trade him hypothetically, I guess.
There's no cap savings though to doing anything with.
No, they can't cut it. I mean, he would be a losing proposition if they cut him.
Right, not much. I think it's only like $1 million or $2 million more from what I remember seeing, but it would be idiotic. And same with Deron Payne. Anyone who tells you they should move on from Deron,
they can't cut. He's impossible. He's the worst one. It's impossible to cut Deron Payne.
Right, like his contract's basically guaranteed. He's here for 2 more years.
If you want me to go over the details, I will, but I'm not going to.
No. I've seen them, so I'm just verbalizing quickly. The interesting thing will be the John Allen situation with how he's whining and his salary cap hit and stuff. I think that's really the wild card to me.
I mean, I'm never one to believe that ownership on a team should give in to the whims of players.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
If you don't like it, so what? We're paying you a lot of money. Be a pro. Get in there, and when your contract expires, you can leave.
Yeah.
That's why I look at it.
I look at it, I understand that perspective, but if a guy is going to become a problem and it could affect the morale of the rest of the team, that's when I'm like, maybe, let's see if we can get something for him.
It's going to depend on how the new staff.
Absolutely. We're way too far out for it, for sure. It's not like the Chase Young situation. I think the Chase Young situation was worse than anything we've seen with John Allen right now.
I don't think he ever had a good attitude, to be honest.
Exactly.
I thought he was I didn't think they should have drafted him. I got to pat myself on the back for that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't think John Allen's in that camp, is my point.
No, but he has
tried hard. He's having a bad year and he's pissed off. I get it.
He has shown a pretty bad attitude. I mean, I got to say, but nothing like what Chase Young seems to have done.
Yeah.
So.
And I think Allen's had a good attitude in past years. It's this year. Yeah.
He's the captain for a reason.
Right.
So that salary cap for 2024, just real quick. So they're at Washington's in really good shape. I mean, they end up with like 85, 90 million, depending on how high the cap goes. I don't know how they even spend all that money, honestly.
Well, there are a lot of holes we're talking about. Now, you have a bunch of draft picks and 5 in the top 100 now. But everything after the first round, it's not that much, right? In terms of that pre-slotted.
It's really minor, really minor.
Yeah, it's like $1 million for a second rounder.
You get past about round 3, and it gets to be. I mean, it'll end up on the rule of 51. Past about like round 4 or so. So they're small.
Right. Yeah, but broadly speaking, your first round pick's going to cost you a decent amount, but nothing that breaks.
Well, at the top of round 1, where Washington seems to be heading, it could end up being $20 million.
Yeah. It could be high. That for
Yeah.
those elite guys do get a high hit, but um, otherwise it won't be too bad. Uh, it does become fascinating when you start talking about these guys that could get let go and how much that adds to the cap space. Though they could easily have 100 million in space.
Well, I mean, it depends on how much the dead cap is, because none of the rest of the players have have big cap hits.
Except for the few that we talked about, yeah.
Yeah, those are the few. But they could, if a new staff comes in and goes, we're going to burn the whole place down, they could cut a whole bunch of people, and it would free up a bunch of space. It would just be in little chunks.
Right. But for everyone you got to cut, you got to sign somebody.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't start over, completely over.
The one that's I think will upset the most fans is that I think because of his salary, Wiley will still be here. I don't think
Which is so stupid. I mean,
I know but it's a bad contract, and you it just doesn't make sense to cut him.
So Andrew Wiley, I don't know. I mean, they could cut him. He has a 3-year, $24 million contract, but he's in the first year of it, which hurts. And so next year, his cap hit is about 9.4 million. His dead cap is 7.8 million. And so if they cut him as a pre-June 1 cut, he would only save about a little under 1.5 million. They could split it up and call him a post-June 1 cut, which would save him a little more. But it's really, you get to 2025, and that's when the big saving. He's got a $10.4 million cap hit in 2025, 2.6, and they would save a lot of money then. But it's one of those cut your losses thing, I think. Get rid of it.
It could be. It's also at the same time, you got to figure out how much of that are you going to spend on his replacement, right?
Dave decided to join us.
There he is.
Yes, here I am.
You have a nice dinner, Dave?
Yes, a beautiful in-bone prime rib medium with the extra blue cheese crumble on top with the creamy horseradish sauce on top of it. My grandson stole my broccoli, but that's okay.
Why did you order the steak incorrectly?
What do you mean incorrectly?
You ordered it medium. That's incorrect. I mean, there should be a rule. There should be a rule in steak restaurants. If you don't order at least medium rare, you get thrown out. That's the way I look at it.
There's a reason why I don't do it medium rare, because the place we went to at Texas Roadhouse, when you say medium rare, they actually go closer to rare. So
that's the goal. No, that's the goal. I'm saying the rarer the better. I'm saying medium rare ought to be the maximum limit that you're allowed to go. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's the thing. The steak came out beautiful in terms. It was like a beautiful bright pink.
But that's
wasn't
not
red.
Enough. That's not enough. That's what I'm saying.
So I would also point out, he did say it's a bone-in prime rib, Steve. And usually if it's bone-in, even if you order it medium, it's going to be very, very rare, medium rare towards that bone side, which is what you want.
Yes.
Y'all are missing the concept, but let's get back.
I generally am not, and I agree with you. You want the rarer the better.
Dave, what you missed is we went over Jamin Davis. We were talking about 2024 salary cap. And what we were just talking about is the fact that Andrew Wiley is a savings about 1.6 million next year, but they need to cut his butt anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But, long story short, they're going to have a lot of money, is what we're saying. 85, probably at the start.
85 million. Yeah.
Yeah. If they make a few obvious cuts, they'll just be able to Scrooge McDuck a little bit,
They could easily be up to close to 100 million if they try.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Now, of course, I'm sure you guys have heard about the fact that Marty Herney's kind of been the voice that Josh Harris is going to.
That. We didn't have that on the agenda, but that is a wild one, that Marty Herney now has the ear of Josh Harris, it sounds like, for a little bit.
Why? Does he have naked pictures of Josh Harris or something?
I think it's more or less just he wanted to have that veteran kind of voice in his ear going through the rest of the year. I highly doubt it's got anything to do after the year, because even Rick Snyder made a good point. It's like he can't go to any other GM outside of the team right now and actually talk legally about anything with the team. So if you're going to pick the year of somebody, pick the year of someone that most likely is not going to be your general manager next year anyway.
Yeah, that's
And-
fair.
Marty Herney, for those who don't know, Marty and Rick Snyder worked together way back when at the Washington Star,
Right.
when they were both beat writers covering the team. So I think Rick might, I'm not saying he does, but he might know something about what's going on, or, you know,
Possible. Yeah.
Oh, I
call
think
your
he
old
certainly, he
desk
may not
mate and say,
want to
hey, what's
say
going
it.
on?
He may not want to say it out loud, but I mean,
No.
Rick and Marty Herney know each other. I mean, he
Right.
probably
Yeah.
does know.
They've known each other for 40 years. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And Marty Herney's also, he's got that nice benefit where he, at his age, and he's probably hanging it up anyway after he's done here. So the fearlessness of knowing you don't have to worry is sometimes free.
Right.
For some
And-
people like Ron Rivera, they just get all like weird. But other people, and you guys know this in the workforce, that guy who's like in the final few months before retirement, he's just
Yeah.
like, screw it, I'm gonna drink a beer at lunch, I'm gonna do whatever I want, you know.
And besides, Josh Harris is a big analytics guy. There's no way he's not going to bring someone in that
Right.
doesn't have that foundation anyway.
Oh, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And you know what? You got to be comfortable with your guy. Even though I'm not an analytics guy in that regard, like you got to bring in your team. And
I think there's a limit to how much the role of analytics, because some
Sure.
of these stats I'm just not a fan of. And I do still kind of believe in fundamentally you need to watch the experts,
Absolutely.
not like us who just pretend. Like the real experts do need to watch the film, and that should be most important.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
that's,
yeah.
Right.
Literally just spending 8 hours a day watching.
Well, there's
film.
baseball, there's MLB teams that really just pay attention to the Dodgers are one of them. Just the stats.
Well, you know where I am a big analytics guy when it comes to football? It's in the stuff you love, honestly, Steve. It's in the like math of roster building, the financial analytics of.
That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm talking
Yeah.
about analyzing the
Oh, I know.
players. Yeah.
But that's where I think analytics still makes the most sense because, and baseball started out that way in a lot of ways. It's, hey, use these numbers to say this guy's cheap and you're getting this value. Like that's
Yeah.
how sabermetrics really worked, right?
Right.
Like
That was that was the root of it.
right.
It's gone
Right,
a bit over the deep end at this point.
Absolutely. And football's gone the same way, especially with
Yeah.
PFF and all these places, trying to
Yeah.
put a number on every little thing that you
Right.
can't. We're all in agreement there. We all know.
Well, the one
Um,
thing like, because I listened to Alec Calaby in one of those symposiums we did a couple years ago, and the one thing that he had spoke to, and it was who was the old coach of what was it, Oklahoma State, I think it was. I forget his name, but he was on there
Are you
talking
talking
with
about
GM.
the I'm a man. Come after me, that guy?
I think
That was
so.
Oklahoma
Yes,
State.
yeah, Oklahoma State, yeah. But the one thing that he had talked about, which is why I like Alec Calaby a lot too, is the fact that there's a line that you have to draw on where you use analytics, but you can't just you can't ignore the tape. If you use analytics to override what the tape says, then you're missing the whole point of how you use analytics. The
Mhm.
tape is number one. It has to be number one when you look at everything. It's just that when you start getting deeper into the draft and finding these diamonds in the rough and so forth, that's where analytics really starts kind of shining a light on some of these players that you think are relatively unknown, and you see where they kind of shape up, especially like the fifth rounds and on. So
The guy at Oklahoma State I was thinking about was Mike Gundy. That's who he was the I'm a man speech. That may not be who you're talking about.
No, it's not him. But Mike Leach. There you go, Mike Leach.
Oh, Mike Leach. Yeah, yeah.
Mike Leach.
You know, the thing with analytics that I've always, to kind of piggyback off that, you know, if the eyeball
Rest in
test.
peace, Mike Leach, by the way, he's dead now. But
Oh, is he?
What's that?
yeah, he died. Mike Leach died just incidentally.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh
didn't
wow.
realize that.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, if the eyeball tests and the numbers match, like that's one thing. The one thing you always got to watch out for, if your eyes tell you one thing and the numbers don't tell you something, that's when you got to start worrying with the analytics stuff. And you know, I think we're all in that camp where I'm going to trust what I see, not just rely on the numbers, right? Like,
especially so early in the draft. It's like you don't want to be overthinking it. If you have a guy there that's like say in the SEC offensive tackle, he's been All-American, everything all across the board, and I mean, don't overthink it because you see some Division One school tackle somewhere that he's got the size and everything, and like you know what, I love his athleticism, all that stuff. I think he's the guy to go to early, second round instead of this other guy. Don't do that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I don't disagree. Since we're talking about roster, how would you guys feel if Washington traded Terry McLaurin?
Depends
If that's what the new GM wants, I'm all for it.
You wouldn't be upset as a fan.
No, I wouldn't be personally. No,
I don't think I'd be upset at this point because I do think we're about to see a total rebuild anyway, and it's an age thing. You know, again, if we're doing some basic analytics, Terry McLaurin's going to be 30 very soon, and that's the pumpkin hour now for a lot of receivers. So, not across the board, but more often than not, guys start falling off at 30 now. So I wouldn't be super upset. It would really depend on what they get for him.
I would have to think they'd get like a 3rd round pick or something for him, probably.
Yeah, it's not going to blow people away. I think people would be upset if they got a 3rd round pick for Terry McLaurin, but I don't think you're wrong necessarily that might be what's offered.
He's one of their best trade assets.
Yeah. And the other thing with that, the other question, obviously he's not used right in this offense, right? Like his numbers are way down. And I don't know if that's a scheme thing or if it's his health or what.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things.
Sure.
It's a combination of things. But I don't think he's played as well this year either. You know?
No, he hasn't. But like it could be a lot. It could be a lot of things. It could be design. It could be his play. It could be injury. It could be just a range of things. With the next coaching staff, I think you have to ask the question, when you look at this receiving core and whatever they like to do, does having 3 guys who all do the same thing and none of them are really a slot guy, and you know they're all good route runners. That's the strength of Davis, McLaurin, and Curtis Samuel, is that there is the route thing, and then Curtis brings the gadget thing in.
Okay, I did some real quick math.
Yeah,
because that's me. Terry McLaurin has averaged in the first 4 years of his career, through 13 games, he averaged 91 targets.
Mm-hmm.
Now that includes his first year in which the targets were really, really low. So if you erase that year, it goes way up. So give me 1 second and I'll do that real fast.
Sure. But, I mean, that's a good amount of targets for this point in the year, generally speaking.
Okay, so it's about 98 targets average from 2020, 2022 through week 13. This year, he's had 100 targets. Now, what's different is his catch percentage is at 60% this year. He had a bad 2021, but 2020 and 2022 is up to almost 65%. So he's a little bit less there, but the one thing that is really down for him, is his yards per reception.
Yeah.
That is what's really down.
It's
his
like
catch
30% down or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's at 11.6 yards per reception, which is the lowest of his career by a lot.
Right.
And so his catch percentage is a little down. Targets are up, but yards per reception way down.
And you know, this is maybe my own bias, but to me that points to a lot more about play design.
Yes.
You know, like if it means you're not getting him open downfield as much, and he's having to make short catches, and you know that also points to the bad O-line. It really does.
And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe Sam Howell's net air yards or average air yards per attempt is right around like ranked 20 or 22nd. If I recall correctly. Great. So I mean he's not really pushing the ball downfield on a consistent basis. One, because he has no time half the time with the offensive line, and two, I think play design definitely has played in that because you had Bieniemy playing a lot more of a quick passing game. But even in his rookie year, Gruden used him a lot in the quick passing game. He was getting those yards after catch like crazy. He's just not getting that this year.
Yeah, no question. So there's so many factors that we have to. If the new GM and coach come in and say, yeah, we like them, but it makes more sense to get assets. Okay, I'm fine with it. I would like to see more than a third round pick.
I mean, that's a wag on my part, but I mean, I just think that's probably somewhere near his value. I don't think he's at the same tier as some of the truly elite receivers in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He's kind of like the A-, B+ level player, I think.
In an era when there's probably 40 guys who are 1,000-yard-ish receivers, he's just, it's tough to say you're a top 10 guy. I think the NFL has so many good receivers right now. Good, not elite, maybe, but just, they could all be starters on a team if they're given or the number one guy if they're given the opportunity.
And if you think about it, I mean, if you're able to get good asset return from McLaurin, I mean, who's to say you can't just simply use Dotson in his role at a cheaper price, and you bring back Curtis Samuels to continue being that gadget guy in this next offense that we have from another offensive coordinator, and you draft a receiver that could ultimately end up being that long-term replacement for McLaurin anyway, or you get a guy that's not the same as the other two guys. It's more of a bigger-bodied receiver. I think that could be a very viable option that they go for. I mean, I know Dotson not having a great year this year, but I mean, he's still not a terrible receiver either. I think he could do what McLaurin does, and then move forward, and you save more money against the cap that way.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it. Well, you don't. No, we were going over you don't save anything against the cap by getting rid of McLaurin, really.
Well, if you trade him, you wouldn't save.
Yeah. Hold on a minute.
You would save some, I think, on a trade, but.
Okay, so his cap hit this year is $11 million, and his dead cap is like his pre-June 1 dead cap's $27 million, but his post-June 1 is 11. Next year, 2024, he's got a $29 million dead cap, which is higher. So my guess is they could probably save in a post June 1 trade on him. I need to look it up real fast. So my guess off the top of my head, I don't have that on my chart.
Right. But regardless, it's not a huge savings in all likelihood.
So it might not be worth trading him anyways.
Yeah.
Well, but you don't always trade. They don't need cap space, okay? They're not going to trade for cap space. You would trade Terry McLaurin if you thought that you could make the team better by getting assets for him.
Right.
That's true. Right.
And that's my point. If you're not going to clear cap space, I think you need somebody champing at the bit a little bit to get good at return value if it doesn't help you salary cap wise. I'm one of those people who always says if you can't get more than one pick for a guy, I don't see the point. Like, to me, even if it's a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick that's getting thrown on in the back end, that's just another cheap contract for your roster, and that's worthwhile. That, to me, if it's just a 3rd rounder, I don't know. No,
but now you might get a Kansas City guy could be desperate and take their late 2nd round pick and offer for McLaurin.
Okay,
because that's killed them this year.
Yeah.
So Washington could trade him at any time and save quite a bit of money next year. So his dead cap in a trade is under 17 million pre-June 1, and then post-June 1 is 5.6. So they could actually save a lot of money by trading.
Oh, okay. That is a big chunk of savings then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So that would change my tune then. Absolutely.
But not me, because again, you don't need cap space. What you need is assets. So to me, if you're going to trade him, you gotta. I mean, I don't know if I would go for it just as my 3rd round pick thing. I mean, that's just me speculating as to what he might get, but may not be worth it just for that.
Oh, it would have to be like someone Alex would say. It would be like a 3rd and maybe like a another late round pick next year and like a late round pick the following year or something like that or whatever, or swapping the picks or whatever.
I mean, he is a Pro Bowler, so
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm all about that. I don't care if it's not the best value with those extra picks, but you got to get more than one asset.
Right.
And
for
just
it.
to be clear, I'm just spitballing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Uh,
we
we-
didn't
we
have
all
any
are.
rumors
It's that time
or
of
any
year.
of
It's
that.
spitballing season
Yeah.
because, I mean, we can talk about the Rams game
We
coming
have to
up.
talk about the Rams game. I'm going to make
All
you
right,
guys
fine.
talk
We
about
should
the
talk
Rams
about the
game.
Rams game. So they're about to play the Rams in what is going to be the Faded Numbers Bowl because both these teams have those stupid faded numbers on their jerseys now.
Faded? Now, what are you talking? You're
you know how
Mr.
the-
Uniform.
Yeah, you know how the new Commanders uniform has that stupid faded pattern on their number on their road
No,
jersey?
I've never noted. No, I don't.
Okay, it does. The number fades.
Is
in
this something that only uniform nerd Alex notices? Or is
yes,
okay.
The Rams
Yeah,
also
I think so because I
it's
don't
really-
recognize that either.
Yeah.
This is super nerdy, but that's fine.
Yeah, it
yeah,
is.
We
It is
we
super
love
nerdy.
you anyway.
It's a thing that Nike does, and it looks terrible.
They're gonna make
So,
me look
anyway,
it up here.
Rams coming off a loss, a good loss in a way, to the Ravens overtime. Watched a lot of that game here locally. I can't say all of it because my wife's like, "Well, your team's not playing. Here's a chore list. Do this." But I want to watch football, but whatever. The Rams are an interesting team to me. I kind of came into the season thinking they were where Washington was in a lot of ways, in that it's an older team. They're about ready to kind of turn it over and blow it up. Now Stafford, not a great year, right? Like he's pretty much coming down, it looks like. But they have a lot of young talent that they got this year.
Okay. Allow me to give you some general numbers, and we'll dive into players.
Sure.
I do kind of think, in some respects, Washington and the Rams are similar, and so let's start with points scored.
Sure.
The Rams have scored a lot more points than Washington, 299 points which is ranked 10th, compared to 261 for Washington, which is 23rd, and they've moved up to 23rd from the bottom. Quarterback rating, they're almost exactly the same, 85.6, 85.5. That's team quarterback ratings. Rushing, they're 4.3 yards per carry. Washington's at 4.6 somehow. And defenses, the Rams have had a much better passing defense than Washington has. They are allowing a quarterback rating of 86, and Washington's the worst team in the NFL at 106.
Well, it's rushing better now that Danny Johnson's gone.
Yeah, Danny Johnson will make up for all of it. But rushing defense-wise, they're about the same, 4.2 yards per carry, 4.4 yards per carry. So there are some similarities, I think. But what you're talking about, Stafford, this is where I think we got to start.
Yeah.
So Stafford has not had a great year, as you said. He is at 60% completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, quarterback rating of 88.8. Brett Rippon played a little bit. That's why their team rating went down.
Right. Did not play well.
Yeah, no, but Stafford hasn't been anything great.
No, and at his age, it's kind of the writing's on the wall. What's going on there at quarterback? I feel like.
But
now they made all those moves a couple years ago, brought in a bunch of star players and vets, including Stafford, to get a Super Bowl ring. So I think most of us would take that, you buy yourself a championship kind of 1 year, and then you got to rebuild a few years later mentality.
Yeah.
Like plenty of people never get to see a Super Bowl for their team. So I think we'd all take that. But the chickens are coming home to roost when it comes to Stafford. They got
stop right there, though. I think we cut you off, David. Did you have Stafford comments?
Yeah, whatchamacallit. I agree. Majority of the year, Stafford hasn't been that great, but the last few weeks, where he went against Arizona, Cleveland, and Baltimore. Now, granted, Arizona is Arizona. I know that.
Yeah.
But in those consecutive weeks, his rating was 121, 110, and 103. But the last 2 weeks against Baltimore and Cleveland, which are two of the better defenses in the league, especially Cleveland, he had a combined 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, with a yards per attempt average of 7.5, roughly about 7.5. And adjusted yards per average right around 9. So the last couple weeks against some good defenses, Matthew Stafford has actually been almost like the Stafford of old. Especially especially with Kyren Williams coming back, and he's been taking a boatload of the rushing attack, and he's a receiving threat out of the backfield.
He's such a good young running back right there.
Yes. But the biggest thing that they've had emerging in the last couple of weeks is a young rookie tight end, Davis Allen. And he's been kind of a go-to guy for Stafford the last couple of weeks. He hasn't been a stud, but he's been opening up that field more for Puka Nacua and Cooper on the outside. So it's.
But you got to stop at Puka Nacua though. This dude is balling out. He's a rookie.
Absolutely. Yep.
He's got 82 receptions and 126 targets for 1,113 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Out of nowhere, basically.
Out of nowhere. Yeah. I mean, this dude, he has burned many, many teams. Yep. And the other guy I want to mention, and Cooper Kupp has become kind of second fiddle.
Yeah.
Even though he's the big name. There is no doubt that Puka Nacua, is that how I pronounce it? Puka Nacua?
I believe so, yeah.
There's no doubt he is the number one receiver by far. The other one is Kyren Williams, running back. Mm-hmm. This guy's averaging 5 yards a carry. And he's the lead. He's got 159 attempts, so this is not a fluke. He has burned a bunch of teams, but he's had 3 kind of down games in a row. So I don't know if he's burnt out, if he just played. I mean, it was Cincinnati, the 49ers, and Seattle. So now you're facing Washington. So I think even if Matthew Stafford is inefficient, between Puka Nacua and Kyren Williams, it may not matter.
I mean, I got to give them credit for, a very good job in terms of finding good young talent with both them. And then you add in their third receiver, Atwell, who, he's not putting up the same numbers, but you're talking about a 22, 23, and 24-year-old right there. Like, very young guys, all performing well. Like, you have the building blocks for your next offense whenever they do say, all right, we're rebuilding officially. Right. And Stafford retires, which maybe not this year, maybe in another year or two, and they'll bring somebody in as a rookie under him. I mean, that's the smart thing to do right now for them. But, like that team, they have the building blocks for another good team very quickly already.
They do.
Which frustrates me to no end here in Washington, where they just don't know what they're doing ever.
Right. Frustrating, no doubt.
Yeah.
You got to give the new ownership a chance, so
Oh, I know. I'm not blaming the new owners. I'm not blaming the new guys at all. I'm just stating a fact that it's disappointing. But yeah, when was who was the guy you mentioned, Dave? The tight end you liked?
Davis Allen. Actually, it was really impactful the last game.
Oh, okay.
I said the last couple games, but it's really the last game. We had 5 targets, 4 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. But he was anchoring the middle, rather well, really opening up the deep routes even more so for Nacua and so forth, and opening up the running game even more, because he's also a pretty good, not great, but pretty good inline blocker in the running game.
Mm-hmm.
So
too as well.
I before we get out of here with this, I think we'd be doing the listeners a disservice. We didn't mention a couple players on the Rams defense.
Oh yeah, of course.
The obvious is Aaron Donald, and as an interior lineman, he's going to be going up against the likes of Andrew Wiley, which is sure to go horribly wrong. But what the fans might not realize out there is Byron Young is balling out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really balling out. So he has produced, I believe it's. Here we go.
6 sacks.
6 sacks himself, 52 tackles. He's an edge rusher. So what he's doing, and he's a rookie, but he's already playing like that. He's benefiting from playing next to Aaron Donald. If you watch,
Right.
I watched a little bit of his film. They are keen on Aaron Donald because you have to, because he's a Hall of Famer, a future Hall of Famer. But Byron Young is a guy who may just yet get Washington to their sack goal. So watch out for him.
Yeah,
Sack goal
yeah,
being
that's that
78.
goal. The whole week off, I forgot that we still have that to look forward to. That's something.
It's my number one goal of the season.
I know it. I remember completely that it is, but it was just we had a week off, so it was nice to not have to think about it and how bad they are. Yeah, this defense obviously they moved on from a lot of the guys from their run, other than Donald, right? Like I don't know of any big names that are still there.
No, there aren't. It's no, they've moved on.
Right.
Well, I took a peek to see what they left for total yards, which is average per game is 340 for the Rams defense compared to our 380. But of course, the very next category next to it, total touchdowns allowed, the Rams 29 and us, wow, 45 touchdowns. That's depressing that we've allowed total this whole year.
Lot.
That's ridiculous. Even the Panthers have let up less touchdowns than us. They were at 42.
Well, I get you. I'll do you one stat worse. The Rams are allowing 5.3 yards per play. Would anybody care to guess who is last in the NFL at yards per play defense?
Oh, the Panthers?
No, it's Washington.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Geographically, Dave, you were close.
And they're last in the NFL in total yards surrendered. Washington is. So the level of disappointment on defense does not end, I think. So what I think is going to happen in this game, I mean, until Washington's players and coaches show like they give a tinker's damn, I think they're going to keep getting blown out. And the Rams can score. The Rams took the Ravens into overtime.
Yep.
And the Rams haven't been great. I mean, they're 6-7, on the year, but they've played a lot better than has Washington. So I just think, and this game's in LA, I just think until Washington shows something, I don't think in good conscience I can predict anything but another blowout.
Oh, another blowout? I'm shocked.
We've all been
No, you're just gonna go blowout.
Oh, I said I wrote 35-17, and I've already written my prediction in the game preview.
Oh, okay.
So I said 35-17.
Okay.
Rams.
The way I see it, let's see, against Cleveland, the Rams got 36, scored 36 against Baltimore, 31. Anyone who thinks that the Rams are going to get less than 35 points against our defense are just delusional or have been under a rock all year. I mean, I can easily see this game going out of hand real quick, being I'll say 35-13.
Okay. I do think that our offense might be able to put up a few more points. But I think you guys are right that this is like a high 30 scoring game for the Rams. So let's say 30. I'll just pick a different number. I'm going to go 38. And let's say Washington gets 21 points, 24 points, something like that.
Fair.
It won't be close.
You're going to give him some credit, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to. I think Sean McVay maybe, feels a little soft spot and feels bad for,
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. He's too busy with his supermodel wife and child now.
Is he married to that girl?
I'm pretty sure he's married.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Good on him. It just goes to show what money can buy, huh?
Well, he never had an issue with the ladies, is what I have heard.
Really?
From his single days here in Washington. It sounds like he was quite successful.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good-looking, smart guy who everyone knew was going to be a head coach. Like, you don't see that being an issue. All right, before we get out of here, one last fun little story that I found just before we came to record. There is apparently going to be – there's a plan to review the NFL's rule about the fumble into the end zone, which most people, when it happens to your team, you hate this rule to no end. Just to explain it, I'm sure you all know, if an offense fumbles the ball on their way to the end zone and the ball rolls out through the end zone, it's a turnover and the other team gets the ball at the 20. Widely hated by most fans because it doesn't make logical sense. But I guess it happens rare enough where the NFL's never really worried about it. But apparently they're going to look into fixing this now. Now, my question to you guys is, what do you think is a fair outcome for fumbling the ball into the end zone?
Is it in the end zone or out of the end zone?
Well, you technically haven't crossed the line of scrimmage, because if you did and you fumbled, you a touchdown. So,
No. What I mean is, are you saying it's not that the ball has to roll out of the back of the end zone? It's fumble into
the
the
roll
end
has
zone.
to roll through the end zone and out of bounds. In some
Okay,
direction.
that's what I thought. Yeah. See, it's a dumb rule, but on the other hand, there has to be some consequence, and I'm not sure what the consequence, the
Right.
reasonable consequence really is. Do you back them up? Is it a penalty? You back them up 15 yards? There is some kind of rational basis for it, which is like, if you let the ball go beyond the field of play like that, maybe you kind of should be done.
Right.
So it's a tough one.
That, and that I think this is a rule from like the Leatherhead days, right? This was a different era of football where you got punished as an offense still for doing stupid things. Where it should go, I would just say, broadly speaking, I think it should be, if you fumble, it goes back to like the 5-yard line by default, just something like that. Like, it's not first and goal at the 1. You have to still make up a serious chunk of, because that's a bit of a punishment for fumbling at that point. It's almost like getting a 5-yard penalty, is my thinking.
I guess. I mean, it's weird to me that this is what they're focusing on.
Well, I think it's just going to be one of a lot of things. They have to focus on the refereeing issue, number one, if they're being serious.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, like, who decided this was the rule? I mean, you've had all kinds of pass interference questions this year, personal foul issues this year, and you're going to worry about that?
Offsides issues apparently are still a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was in the Chiefs game. If anybody saw the Chiefs game, Patrick Mahomes was screaming about it. He was in the wrong. He shouldn't have been screaming about it, but
Right. I mean, we saw a legitimate one a year ago with Terry McLaurin where he was not offsides and they called him for it.
Right.
But yeah.
I mean, to me, if you're going into the end zone and a defense generates a fumble, say at like the 2-yard line, and it rolls through the end zone, back instead of the opposing offense getting the ball out the 20 or 25-yard line, where that fumble was generated is right where they pick up their offense, right there at that 2 or 3-yard line. That's generally because, I mean, if you fumble, because if an offense is driving downfield and they fumble the ball and they recover it, say they fumble at the 50, recover at the 45, that's where they're getting at right there at the 45, and they're moving on. So why should that be any different? Wherever it's generated, that's where it's kicked back out to.
I mean, the counter to that is that a touchback that on a kickoff that goes out of the end zone comes out to the 25.
Well, see, that's
like
the thing.
Touchback is 25.
But that's the thing. You're talking about a touchback on a kickoff or a punt.
But you also you intercept the ball in the end zone. It's coming out. It's a touchback. It's coming out to the 25.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's fine, because I think right there is because you actually generate that turnover in the end zone. So I mean, maybe not the 25, maybe kick out to the 15 or something, but you're generating a fumble that's on the 3 or 2-yard line that rolls into the end zone. I think right where that fumble was generated is where it should pick up for the opposing offense to start going downfield on.
I hear because
it's
debatable.
Because you have some situations where if you watch carefully, a fumble could be generated, and they'll sit there and they'll just make sure that the ball gets, either they'll just pounce or wait till it gets in the end zone or like accidentally kick it to where it rolls in the end zone or whatever, and all of a sudden they can pounce on it or whatever.
The bigger question is whether it should be a turnover at all. I mean, that's the bigger question, where the ball should be placed, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say it probably should.
Actually, if you don't want it to be a turnover, if it's fumbled through there before it gets out of the end zone, if the offense recovers it in the end zone, it's what's called a touchdown, basically, right? But if the offense is the last to touch the ball as it's going out of bounds, then maybe you could sit there, okay, almost like in the NBA. Before it goes out of bounds, last touch the ball, who keeps, they'll have that possession of the ball. Have that similar rule then to where if the offense fumbles it, last a touch and it goes out of bounds, then maybe they kick it back out to like the 10 or 15-yard line or something like that. They go and you go and do something like that.
I don't know. It's a good question. We'll see what happens. It's certainly a good debate.
Yeah. That's the kind of rule change that does make sense, though, to at least fix it. That, and they should get rid of the automatic first down. That's my own thing that I think they should get rid of. I'm sorry. If it's 1st and 15 and a 5-yard penalty gets you a first down, it doesn't make sense.
There should be no defensive holding for 5 yards to get the first down, period.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's never made any sense to me whatsoever. And to say, well, it impeded the receiver from getting to the ball. Well, then we have another penalty for that. It's called pass interference then.
Right.
If that's the case.
No, if 5 yards picks up the first down, gets a first down. But if it doesn't pick up then it's just 2nd and 5 or whatever instead. Yeah. All right. So I think that wraps up this week's episode. We will see you all after the game and talking about who do they play after this? I don't even know. I've given up on that.
It's the Jets.
Yeah, Rams, Jets, 49ers, and Cowboys.
Yeah, right. Those last two are things sure to go wrong.
Yeah. Someone's going to try and put 70 up on us. I just know it.
We'll see.
It might just be the 49ers as they secure home field throughout.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll talk to you all next week.
Yep.
Later.
See it.